All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Scene 1, Take 3. We are back with episode 17, if you can believe that. Today, we are going to be talking all things Wizard of Oz, movies, TV, whatever happens to come up as we go through this. But today, we are not only just Take 3, we also have a fourth take with us today. Special guest, Ryan J. is going to be joining us. I am Tom Hutchison. Welcome, everybody. To this little movie thing that just keeps on going. I don't know how, I don't know why, but we're back yet again with Mr. Jim E. Noble, who is looking off camera for some reason.
That's me. hello.
So Jim, that's of course take 2. We have take 3. Mr. David Fought is here. Also looking off camera. Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. Welcome back to the show, David. And today we have a very special take 4 for you. We have Oz historian and movie critic, Mr. Ryan J., who is clearly texting Princess Ozma right now.
Ready?
Awesome.
He's got the direct line to the Emerald City happening.
I got the off-camera look memo.
Very good. Yes. That's see. This is he knows what he's doing. This is a professional over here, folks. So everybody knows us, Ryan. Why don't we start by just letting everybody know who you are? Give them the rundown on the Ryan J experience.
Sure. Yes. God, you make me sound like an amusement park ride, which has happened before, if you believe it. Anyway, I am a film critic full time. I'm on the NBC TV affiliate in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm on about 4 times a week, on the news a few times, on the morning show called The Morning Blend, doing the movie reviews for the new films opening in theaters or on streaming platforms each week. In addition to that, I'm nationally syndicated on radio across the country through Premier Networks, which works with iHeartRadio and Clear Channel and a bunch of big companies. So I do reviews there. And I have my website, ryanreviews.com, where you can see all my work and my archive filled with recommendations of what to see, stream, and skip. But I also have a bunch of Oz stuff. So, what drew me to celebrity and movies in the first place was my love for my favorite film, which is The Wizard of Oz. You kind of see it around me. I have it in every room of my condo. But it's always been my favorite film, and I've always been obsessed with it. And then subsequently went to the L. Frank Baum original Oz books, and then opened my mind to all other Oz adaptations and influences and cultures, really, that are part of the greater Oz community. And so for the last 10 years, I've been working on presenting on behalf of the Wizard of Oz to other productions, interviewing celebrities at different movies and stage shows and TV shows and animated series, and bringing those to different events around the country. That's how Tom and I first met in Chittenango at Ozstravaganza, one of my favorite places, one of my favorite events. And great team there. And, in doing so, I sort of became an Oz historian. I mean, there's not really another title for it when you present about Oz. And I also go to, universities and theaters and museums and other Comic-Con type stuff. So also I'm a member of the International Wizard of Oz Club. I'm on the board of directors, the Oz Club. Tom, are you a member of the Oz Club?
I don't think I am.
Oh my goodness. Whoa.
Especially as author of Legends of Oz: The Wicked West, which is a fan favorite. But the Oz Club is fantastic, and we're relaunching our website as a destination in the time of the pandemic, but also in-person virtual events, and the Baum Bugle, which really is the Bible that club members receive 3 times a year, and it's fantastic. You go to ozclub.org to join that.
Yeah, we actually had Legend of Oz: The Wicked West, what you see behind me here. You guys all know what's going on with that. That actually appeared on the back cover of one of those Baum Bugles. We had one of our images on the back, which was pretty cool. So yeah. So yeah, Ryan and I have known each other for a number of years. Ozstravaganza. That's the thing you guys hear me talk about every year, where we go up to New York, and it's this big festival. Celebrating Baum, Oz. They put us in a parade. It's a crazy thing. It's a crazy thing. But it's fun. And what was really interesting was I remember vividly my first time there, where here I am putting this, and I had just started the Oz book. I think we had like 4 issues out at the time. And I'm putting out this Oz book on the table, and there was this kind of maze of all of the guests, different people. We had oh my gosh, I'm going to blank on all the names now. There were actors from Wicked, from The Wiz. There were other comic book artists, just artists in general, and they had this maze of people to kind of get to. Some of the Munchkins were still there, and so on. And so while they were all waiting in line, they were basically forced to stand in front of me, for X period of time and see what I was doing. And I would get various reactions. Someone would be like, "Oh, this is kind of cool. What is this?" Blah blah blah. And others, I would get like these Puritan people of Oz that are just like, "Well, that doesn't look very nice," that kind of stuff. And I'm just kind of like stuck there for like, I don't know, 2 minutes while they, essentially. Don't look over there. I don't want to see that. But as I was invited back again and again and again, a lot of those same people suddenly were like, "He's back again? He's back again? All right, what is this thing? Show me what this thing is, because you've been here like 5 times now." And I would finally get to legitimately talk to them, and they'd be like, "Oh, I get it. I understand what this is." And they would buy the book, and they'd come back and be like, "This was really cool. Is there more? Here we go." So, I don't know if it's the power of persuasion or just, consistently, I'm back. Eventually we pounded into
really needs to do is crack open and look into one of your comics or one of the graphic novels and give it a chance, because it's magnificent. And I think, Oz in of itself, probably what we're talking about today is how easily it adapts
Absolutely.
to genres, to different interpretations and adaptations. And like what you've done with it is stunning. And you've done it really better than a lot of other people who've tried in all mediums, because your storytelling, your artwork, and the ingenuity and the creativity that you bring to the characters is really, really fantastic.
Oh, I appreciate that. And your check will be in the mail after this. No problem at all. So we're going to talk Wizard of Oz here tonight, guys. But we're going to go beyond just the Garland movie that everybody knows. We'll dive into a whole lot of different things that maybe you didn't even know existed, because Oz, as a I don't know what you want to call it, a multimedia platform, really started really quickly after the book. The book came out in 1900, and it wasn't long after that Oz things started happening. Radio shows, plays. Even in 1910, there was this crazy little movie. If you can believe this. I mean, I look at this and I'm all I can think of is like Metropolis with the weird face paint and everything from way back in the day.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, you can look at the crazy, I guess that's the lion maybe, and a horse. I mean, the costuming is really strange, but again, you're talking about 1910 back in the day. This is something that I'm not sure I've ever seen. And there is actually I lost a picture somewhere. I'm going to see if I can find it. They did another one in 1925 that was still black and white. That is just it's so far outside of what we know of Oz. With all the color that we have now.
Look at the trees. The tree.
The haunted forest is just wild, right? I don't know, Ryan. Do you have any? You go back this far as doing some research on some of these movies?
Sure. Well, this is where L. Frank Baum, the creator, was a J.K. Rowling of his day. You know how there is now, the Harry Potter franchise, and then the books, the movies, the theme parks. But Baum was around the time that, even Walt Disney was coming up then too. And Walt Disney was different than L. Frank Baum in the sense that he was really just a businessman who would kind of contract out to creative people like L. Frank Baum to do his storytelling, to create his movies and his animated series and his other work. Whereas L. Frank Baum was a one-man stop, and he tried to do it all. So he was the creator, the writer, the person who would bring it all to life, and he did a stage show production which went on Broadway, was actually the biggest hit on Broadway in its time, and traveled the country very successfully, of The Wizard of Oz, a very strange musical adaptation that involved different characters. That this was before songs really furthered the plot. They were just kind of standards of the day, love songs and the rest of it that were just shoved into with Dorothy and a cow and the rest of it. It was very strange. But then what you're seeing there in terms of the filmmaking was L. Frank Baum living out in California and creating his Oz picture studio and doing some of his own filmmaking. And, you know, he was so ahead of his time. You know, had he existed 20 or 30, you know, just 3-4 decades later, he could have rivaled, I think, L. Frank Baum in seeing everything that Walt Disney has done. I mean, rivaled Walt in seeing everything that they had done. And so, those are the films that you're looking at. They're hard to watch. You know, they're fun for someone like me or like you, Tom, who appreciates Oz, to look at and check out. But I challenge anyone to actually watch one of these films in its entirety. You know, they're silent. Our attention span is so different in today's world, you know, so you can look at it for research, but it's not like you're really going to be entertained and love what you see.
Right. And a lot of these weren't like full length 2-hour movies either. A lot of them were very short, 15-20 minute things. Here's the 1925 pick with it's Laurel and Hardy, right? It was Oliver
Stone.
Yeah, as the Tin Man. Just really crazy. I actually stumbled across this movie one time, like on, I don't know, TBS or TNT or something. I was like scrolling through channels, like, oh, The Wizard of Oz is on. Click, and it's this weird black and white thing that I remember the Scarecrow like walking along like a castle wall. There's like a plane flying. I'm like, what in the world am I seeing here? And I came in like in the middle, so I was completely lost. I had no clue what was happening. But this was actually, when I found that movie, this was one of the early times where I was kind of starting to get my Oz thing going. And that kind of like, that really started to pique my interest in like, what else exists for Oz? I mean, I know a lot of the basics, but there was clearly far more than I ever even imagined. The 1910 film, there was a Patchwork Girl of Oz in 1914. Like you were talking about, the Oz Film Manufacturing Company. His Majesty the Scarecrow in 1914 that became the basis for the book, The Scarecrow of Oz. So the movie actually came first. You know, all kinds of crazy stuff before we ever even get close to the Judy Garland thing that we know.
Yeah, Alfred Baum was a real visionary. I mean, he did outside of Oz, he did many books too and had pen names in their series. But one book he wrote was called The Master Key, which was just a standalone book about a boy who found a key. And really it was a, Oliver, hi, Tori. Tori's piping in. So
Tori's here.
Yes. It's, you know, it was very, very great to see, Tori's also an Oz historian and can fact check me often. You know, I got the general knowledge. There are a lot of people who know so much more than I know, but I'm always happy to share what I do know. But Tori's like the encyclopedia. That's why I'm trying to have her co-host with me as much as I can, so I can like say the fun stuff and then have Tori give you the fact.
That's right. That's
you know? Literally brilliant. But and she's super cute and sweet, and fun, and has a great singing voice. Anyway, hi Tori. But this we were talking about the Oz Manufacturing Company, right? Oh, Baum being a visionary. He did a standalone book called The Master Key. And it is really prophetic in the sense that like he, in like whatever year was published, way before any of these things were created, foresaw things like, you know, an Apple Watch basically, or having a computer in the palm of your hand, you know? So he was very, very creative and brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually just loading a couple of pictures while we're talking here. Actually, I just realized that we're probably going to have a number of our Oztravaganza folks, and I started to look through all of the old pictures to see what I had floating on this particular hard drive. So a couple of things. Well, we were talking about in the green room before we started. I was under the perhaps misguided impression that most millennials' first Oz experience might have been the James Franco movie, which came out in like 2012, just because that would have been in their pop culture moment in time. But then Jim, who is a millennial, said that no, he actually they had the videotape at home, and they were watching it on VHS at the time, which makes sense. So you said that this is The Wizard of Oz, the Garland film, is your favorite movie. What was your experience in seeing that for the first time?
I don't remember the first time, but I do remember among the first few times because I was born in 1974, and I think I was around 3 years old, so it was the late 70s, and it was one of the annual showings, which started in 1956, and they would be on, once a year, and this is pre-VCR, pre-DVD, and the rest of it, so you had to just wait once a year, and I know I loved it. I know I was never scared of the Witch or the Monkeys or anything. I just was completely delighted by the entire experience, and then it became something where, as TV Guide, which my parents subscribed to, would come in the mail, I would always look every week to see when. I'd rip it out, I'd tape it up on my wall, The Wizard of Oz is coming. You couldn't pause, you couldn't rewind, you had to sit there and watch and take it all in and make sure you're not missing anything, because once it was gone, you had to wait another year. It was torture, basically.
That's right.
But that's also part of what whetted the appetite for the fan base and created, because I don't know that films can necessarily become as iconic today without that sort of denial and desire for, Disney did it for many years with their vault process and releasing things and re-releasing things. So The Wizard of Oz does reinvent every few years with an anniversary and comes out bigger and better. I mean, we now have the 4K version, but when I first saw it, I loved it. And then my parents started to indulge me. There were a few Wizard of Oz toys. The Mego action figures were available. I got those, and I had to go through several sets of those because I don't know if I was cutting Dorothy's hair or my dog was chewing up the witch's legs. Something was happening, but it just kind of went from there. Then I became an Oz collector, and then when I was 10, learned about the International Wizard of Oz Club through the Oz books that I had then become a fan of. Because in the back of the Adele Ray publication of these books, they would advertise. And then I started attending events, met Jane Albright and some other people that I'm still friends with today. So it's amazing.
Yeah, I remember. I remember the yearly Oz thing, and I remember a very specific year. This was after my parents had been divorced, and so we would go to my dad's place on every other weekend or whatever the system was. And this particular weekend was Wizard of Oz weekend, and I was, and still am. I'm the TV guy. I'm the movie guy. I want to watch these things. So he was late to pick us up, and the Wizard of Oz had started, and we were watching it on TV. And then he showed up, I don't know, halfway through, and he's like, "Okay, time to go. We're going to," and I'm just like, "No, we have to watch. This is on right now." And he's like, "No, we have to go." So the whole trip to his house, I'm like, "We have to get there. It's going to be over. We have to get there. It's going to be over." And you're exactly right, because there was no home video. There was no pause. There was no put it on your phone. There was no iPad. It was just, if you missed it, you had a year basically generally to wait.
I had a similar experience with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I remember we were at my grandparents' house and it started, and we had to try to leave my grandparents when the commercial hit and try to race home to see if we got there by the end of the commercial break. My parents lived pretty close to my mom's parents at the time, but we still, we got there. We made it pretty closely.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And what was your first Wizard of Oz, David?
Mine, actually, it's kind of weird, and people's like, but when I was younger, we wasn't that big a Wizard of Oz family. It'd come on, I was like, "Oh, I want to watch this. This looks awesome." And Mom was always like, "It's okay, we'll watch it next year or something." So yeah, every year I would never watch it. So literally, my sister and my stepbrother, 7 years ago, was you was sitting here just talking, and he's like, "You've never?" I was like, "I've never seen Wizard of Oz," because they had the commercial on for TNT or something. And they just both stopped and looked at each other. They're like, "You've never seen Wizard of Oz? Never seen Wizard of Oz?" And my brother literally stopped everything he was doing, ran to his house, which is about 10 miles away, came back, and made me sit and watch Wizard of Oz. And that was I loved it ever since. It's like, oh my God. So when I'd watch it, I went online and looked up everything but the designs and everything, me being an artist, I loved everything about the art and everything for it. It was beautiful, and I looked up, especially, and I'd sit there and I had to draw the monkeys now, because I love the monkeys. The monkeys was my thing. And yeah, that was actually the first time. So I'd only seen it 7 years ago. Now, Return to Oz, I'd seen a lot.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Had you
Otherwise-
seen any Oz previous?
Yeah, and before then, like it was Return to Oz, and I'd seen it a lot of times before because I was always that kind of creepy little kid that liked the horror movies and kind of the more off the wall stuff. Then when I saw, Wizard of Oz, I was blown away. Like I was completely enamored. So
Yeah, it is.
Since.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I was a fan ever since, and I watch it to try to watch at least once a year. Draw for some people, it has a certain comic, and do covers once in a while for that, and yeah, I totally fell head over heels for it after that.
Actually, Tom, because you mentioned earlier about the millennials, maybe the what you call it, the Oz Great and Powerful, the James Franco one, right? But however, I can tell you this because I remember when I was a kid, I did watch the VHS as a kid, but the next time that I got into the Oz fandom again was Wicked.
Oh,
okay, sure.
That was a big musical in like 2005, 6.
Yeah.
And I went to that. I went to a performance of that at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C.
Very cool. And I think it's kind of like, Tom, Wicked is similar to Oz the Great and Powerful, depending upon the time someone's born and is first exposed to Oz in any incantation or in any form. It's like they go to that and they might then see that, which is a prequel. They might see that before they go and see The Wizard of Oz and might think then that the Wicked Witch of the West is a good girl, and she's not.
Right. And then of course you had Oz Great and Powerful, which kind of warped it in a different way with origins of the witches and stuff.
Right.
But of course, what we all basically know, and what is in the lexicon of at least American culture, but certainly around the world. I mean, there was actually a Russian adaptation done in the 90s, which is wild to me. Is of course Judy Garland and the OG crew. I think we can call them that, even though there was more before it. These were the folks that made it, I don't know, real, I guess, to us all. And I was thinking about this too, because this was 39, right? So to kind of put this into a little bit of perspective, we were talking about Godzilla movies a couple of weeks ago. King Kong came out in 1933. So these movies came out in the same decade, which is really crazy. But of course, Kong was pure black and white, and Oz got to use some of the black and some of the color stuff that they got to do. Jim was telling us how his dad actually never got to see the color because he never had a black and white TV, or I mean, he never had a color TV.
Yeah,
so it was
all black and white TV. So when I was a kid watching it for the first time, he was watching it for the first time in color because he did So when they got to Oz, he's like, "Wait, what?" Like he didn't know that it was gonna be in color. Like he always thought it was always in black and white.
That's got to be a cool experience. But did he still like the film even before seeing it in color?
Yeah, he really loved the Flying Monkeys a lot. He's a Dungeons and Dragons fan, so whenever he would do Dungeon Master stuff, he would like try to throw in the Flying Monkeys in any way, shape, or form.
That's awesome.
We have been asked to ask you how many times you've seen Wicked, Ryan.
Oh.
Thanks, Mom, for watching, and for that great question. I've seen Wicked 46 times.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
You guys, come on! It's for research.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
There you go.
Yes, I work in the world of Oz, so it's for research.
How many?
I want to see it so many times.
No. But I mean, and this is how the world balances out. I'm gonna take your average way down because I have seen it 0 times.
What?
Really?
What?
Yeah, 0 times. 0 times. What's funny is, and I've told the story before for the Wicked West, is I had been looking to go see it because I was married at the time. My wife wanted to go see it, and I was like, yeah, we can go see it. And so I was looking for, where's this playing? How do we get tickets? And I was being just engulfed with the image of Elphaba with her head down and the hat, over her eyes. And so that image really just kind of burned into my head. And as I was doing my travels to Comic Cons at the time, I would drive wherever I was going. And so I was coming back from a trip out to Arizona, and I was going through Arizona, New Mexico, all that kind of stuff. And it was just, the desert and the tumbleweeds and the cactus and so on. And for whatever reason, that Elphaba picture got in my head again. I was probably thinking about getting tickets again. And that image started to just blend with everything that I was seeing. And all of the terminology started to blend. So she's the Wicked Witch of the West. We have the Wild West, the Wicked Witch of the Wild West. All of these things just started to kind of, Tetris themselves together. And that's where my book came from, is just that Elphaba image, and then all of the travel. I had hours and hours and days of time by myself in the car, just lining all this up. So Dorothy, she's gonna be a cowgirl with her thing. She can't wear ruby slippers. That doesn't make sense. What's the next step? Okay, ruby spurs. Toto could probably still be a dog, but we know she's probably got to ride a horse. Toto became the horse, and it just kept going and going and going. And by the time I got home 4 days later, I had sort of the basic groundwork of what would become the Legend of Oz Wicked West. So thank you, Gregory Maguire, for making Wicked, and then whoever adapted it and did that piece of art, because that was where it all sprung from.
That's amazing. And I remember a cover of yours, one of your special covers does have Dorothy with her cowboy hat and that 100%. Same kind of eye line.
Yep, we did that on purpose to sort of pay homage to our origins. That was done 100% on purpose. So
I love that.
Yeah. Yes, Victoria, I'm sorry, I have not seen Wicked. I know the story, I've heard the soundtrack, like all of that, but I've not seen it.
Well, you will see it though, correct?
I'm not against seeing it at all. But my life in the last decade has been such chaos that I'm never in a place where it's like, oh, hey, I'm not in Chicago anymore, so it's not there. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't even know where to go to find it.
Well, I think we all need to, do like, scene 1, take 45 on 45th Street in New York City, and we'll all go to Wicked together, guys.
Yes.
Come on.
Is it still playing?
In New York? I mean, it's closed right now for the pandemic, but
sure.
It is among the first 2 that will be reopening later this fall.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. Yeah. No, I've never been against doing it. It just never transpired. So yeah. Allison is here with us as well.
Allison,
I'm getting all of the static now.
Everything's going to Tom now.
You lost your Oz card.
I know, right? With all that I do, I haven't seen that. Yeah.
You said doo-doo.
Doo-doo. Doo-doo.
Yeah.
Oh, it's that kind of show, huh, Jim?
Yeah.
Oh, you should see some of our older episodes.
I believe it.
So Ryan, what is your favorite Glinda and Elizabeth? Who's Elizabeth?
Elphaba, I'm sure.
Elphaba, Elphaba.
Yeah.
That's a good question, because I got to see Kristen and Adina. I was at opening night. I was at their first preview. I was at opening night. I was at both Kristen and Adina's last night. Well, it was supposed to be Adina's last night, and then the so I do love. Yes, Tori, we will get Tom to the theater. But I actually loved the very first 2 replacements. So the first Elphaba replacement, when Adina left, was it was Shoshana Bean, and it was Jennifer Laura Thompson for Kristen. And I loved what Shoshana and what Jennifer did as Elphaba and Glinda were they paid homage to both Kristen Chenoweth and to Idina Menzel and how they created the roles. So they carried on those roles and those movements, but they really paid homage to Margaret Hamilton and Billy Burke. I saw many more shades of Margaret Hamilton and Shoshana Bean's depiction of Elphaba, and many more shades of Billy Burke as Glinda in her in Jennifer Laura Thompson's performance as Glinda. So that was really, I loved them the most.
Yeah, I haven't read the Wicked books, but I got the gist of the story, and just through the soundtrack, which I've heard many times, you can kind of get the feel of it. But I love the Defying Gravity song. It's fantastic, and I love all the little nods to the story that we know that are in that thing. No wizard that there ever is or was will ever bring me down, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
It's so good, and so yeah, I definitely want to see it.
So you have not even reaped the benefits of all the lemons and melons and pears. Oh my! So, what's in the punch? Lemons and melons and pears. Oh my! I mean, it will tickle you in many ways.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely wanting to see it. So we'll try and figure that part out once the world gets back to somewhat normal. So let's talk a little bit about. Well, actually, you brought this up, and we'll talk about this too right now. You said that you watched The Wizard of Oz, and you weren't afraid of the monkeys or the witches or any of that kind of stuff. One of the sort of, I don't know, not necessarily complaints, but notes from my Oz from people that have read it was that they thought that the witch wasn't scary enough. And for me, when I watched The Wizard of Oz, the witch never scared me. I was never afraid of the witch. I don't know why necessarily, but I wasn't. But I was terrified of the monkeys, especially the scene when they're running through the forest and they're tearing the scarecrow apart. And I was like, that freaked me out. And so, of course, in my book, the monkeys are quite imposing characters, much larger than these little guys here.
I think your Wicked Witch is very scary.
Well, see, there you go, guys. I mean, that's straight from the source.
Well, she's drawn very scary, and there was always a great suspense to her evil plotting, you know. So I thought that was a mission accomplished there, but that's just my opinion.
I'm going to put that on the back of the book. Ryan J says it's fine, guys. It
does tend to affect more than others' opinions.
So, Dave, you said that you liked the monkeys. What about you guys? Was the witch a freaky thing for you guys? Like, what was your?
When at the end of the movie, when they dump the bucket of water on her and she's like, "I'm melting," I recreated that scene so many times whenever that would be on the TV, because my mom would watch the Turner Classic Movies all the time or whatever. So, I would do the whole scene in front of the TV because I was a kid. But I always thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Like, she's literally dying and melting to death, but I just thought it was cool.
It is cool.
Yeah, I was the same way. No, she didn't bother me. I just thought aesthetically she was awesome looking. Like I said, again, just the whole look of her and the monkeys, and I just saw it as a beautiful movie. Like the first time I saw it, I didn't even listen to the story. I know that sounds dumb. Like I didn't even really listen to the story. I was just my jaw was open. I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. And Ryan was talking about it being in 4K now. I have a 4K TV and player, so I'm gonna have to buy it in 4K now.
Yeah. It is so worth it. I mean, it's first of all, The Wizard of Oz, this classic version is one that no matter how many times you've seen it, I can't even tell you how many times I've seen it, but I still see new things. I still discover things about it in the design, in even somewhere in performances once in a while, in the backgrounds of things. But with each version that comes out and is clearer, and now this 4K version, and there will someday be an 8K. I had the good fortune to visit Warner Brothers early, I think it was January 2020, or it was end of 2019, and got to go backstage behind the scenes at the Warner Brothers where they did the up conversion, and they had to convert it to like 16K, then 8K, then so there are all these other versions out there that will be eventually available once the technology catches up and we can have those kinds of TVs and projectors,
Wow.
And so maybe once we're at 16K, we can finally realize that the Munchkin didn't hang himself in the background.
Yeah.
We'll although maybe at 60, maybe by the time the technology gets there, they'll just digitally remove the bird that's flopping around back there.
Exactly, it's a bird.
Yes.
Wait, so
you guys know this legend, right?
I always thought it was real. Like literally, they hung themselves. I thought that was real.
Jim,
I believe anything I see on the internet. It's got to be true. It was on the internet.
You are not alone. Many people believe just as you believe, but think of it like this. I mean, you're doing this movie podcast now. You have to know that like when a movie is made, there's a camera looking at the set. Behind that camera are hundreds of people milling about. Some of them are writers, some of them are lighting people, some of them are costing people, some of them are sound people, some of them are continuity people, some of them are just business jerks, craft services people. They're all there, plus the action that's happening in front of the camera. Now, to imagine that while this is happening, and by the way, all those hundreds of people, their attention's all looking where the camera direction. That someone's going to go out and string himself up and hang himself, and not one person is going to be like, cut, hang on, Jimmy. No, really? Okay, that's number one. Is like the implausibility of that's actually occurring, on the set of where a film is being made is completely implausible. Second of all, what's the name of the Munchkin? Who's this person? It's not real. We would know the name of the person. There would be a biography and story. Why? What was his motive? And then also, it's like to think that even let's take it as far as we can, and let's say that is a hanging Munchkin. That they're going to leave that take in the film.
Right.
Come on, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, if you look at the picture, if you look at the still, it's like something's going on. And you have to make an explanation for what's going on. But if you watch the movie and you're actually watching things move, you'll see the bird flapping his wings around and doing his strut back there. So it is very weird that people would latch on to essentially a still versus like, here's the clip of, because we can make clips now and we can just watch the bird.
And you do see the bird extend its wings. And,
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the legend behind the bird? That it was there's because these are sets that are all connected to other places, and he just got loose from some other set. Is that more or less what happened?
No, I believe that bird was intended to be there. They rented a bunch of birds and a bunch of animals. Obviously in the Kansas scene, you see the chickens and the horses. But
because this was a big bird.
That was a large bird, yes. And I think it was the Los Angeles Zoo. The filmmakers had gone to rent exotic and endangered species birds to place around because it was all in the sound stages. It added an element of verite to the scene.
Got it. Yeah. I will be interesting if they ever decide to like just be like, okay, forget it. We're just digitally removing the bird and just take it away. Just take it away. Well, you have the 4K, right? Is the bird still in the 4K version?
Beautifully.
Oh my gosh.
He's a flamingo now. He's pink.
They actually gave the bird a song. So the bird is all like, hey, can I come with you guys? Yeah.
Excellent. Another little thing that a lot of people might not know is, as we're just kind of talking about this movie randomly, is originally Dorothy was going to be blonde.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little screen test for y'all, because in the book she's blonde. Silver shoes, of course, all that kind of stuff got modified for the movie. But I love finding these little weird oddity pictures like this. This is kind of cool to see, really behind the scenes of before they're even making scenes.
Yeah, there were several different directors, about 4 or 5 different directors that worked on the film, and this was the first director, Richard Thorpe. And he designed, the Yellow Brick Road looked more like stones and not like bricks. The Scarecrow looked quite different. The Wicked Witch looked quite different in terms of her facial features and her hair. And they did some filming that way, weren't pleased, scrapped all that film and him as well.
And do you know, does that stuff potentially even exist?
No, sadly, that stuff. Because back then they didn't know, we didn't know or couldn't foresee that we were going to be releasing to home video with special features and doing deleted scenes and commentary and making up featurettes. It was very protected in terms of movie making. So they literally, and it's so sad, they threw a lot of things out. Even like Ruby Slippers were all going to be at one point just disposed of. And there was a man working at Warner Brothers as that was happening that found them in box in a warehouse and like got them out of there and rescued them, basically the 5 remaining pair before they could have been destroyed.
That's amazing. I don't know. I feel like even back in the day, if I was making a movie, I'd be like, yo, man, let's like hold on to some of this stuff. And, just from a personal sense of like, hey, we made this, let's not just put it in the garbage can and forget about it. But like we talked about the Godzilla stuff back a couple weeks ago, the old Toho suits, they didn't really worry about it. They just let those things deteriorate and now they're all gone. And now only now do they kind of, try and save all of these things, as our pop culture has expanded to the point where we all want to see it, man. We all want to see it. Put those slippers in the museums and let us go have a peek. What are there? Are there 3 Ruby Slippers? 3 sets?
Yeah, there's there's the Smithsonian pair. There's the pair that the Academy Museum now has in Hollywood that was acquired by Steven Spielberg, Leonardo DiCaprio, and George Clooney. There is the pair that was stolen and then returned There's the Egyptian-looking pair or Arabian-looking pair that Debbie Reynolds had, and there may be another one in a private collection. So I think about 5.
Okay.
I've seen the Smithsonian ones. I've been there.
Yeah.
You've actually seen them, like you saw the exhibit?
Yeah. Yeah, I used to live right by the Smithsonian, like 17 miles.
How did they fit you, Jim? Thank you for laughing.
Well, that's usually what I'm here for. I'm here for the laugh.
Good.
Yeah, he is literally the class clown here.
Yeah, he's the class clown.
That's awesome.
That's why we have him up there.
Oh man, so let's move on and do a couple other things here. Of course, we had the Wizard of Oz was 1939. There was I came across this. I have very little information, but I did find this. So there's something just called Oz. It was eventually renamed Oz: A Rock and Roll Road Movie, and then when it was released in America, it was called 20th Century Oz. This was an Australian adaptation of Oz. I mean, I've never heard of this until I saw this in the listing of all these things. And at first I was like, well, wait a minute, don't they call Australia Oz for some reason, which I don't know. So I thought maybe it was just loosely put into this list, but no, it is legitimately an adaptation of the Baum story. Do you have any concept of this movie?
Well, Australia is called Oz because the first part of the word Australia sounds
so
like
it's just
Oz.
a nickname.
A
sort of,
nickname, yeah. So it's just a nickname for Australia. And there's another great film called Australia, directed by Baz Luhrmann, starring Nicole
Hugh Jackman
and everyone's favorite Wolverine, Hugh Jackman. But that takes place in 1939, and you see clips of The Wizard of Oz in it, and Nicole Kidman sings Over the Rainbow in it, and it's beautiful. But this Oz Warrior Road movie, basically, it is not. What was the one, the Charlize Theron Mad Max? Yeah.
Right. Fury Road.
If it were like Oz Fury Road, I think we would all turn up for that. Charlize Theron could play Dorothy. It would be fantastic. Anyway, but I've seen clips of this that you can find online. It's another kind of hard to watch, awkward, like misguided sort of adaptation, but never really hit.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, we're gonna be kind of scratching the surface of everything that exists Oz-wise tonight, guys. If anyone's in the two things for those that are watching. Number one, if you have questions for any of us, but more specifically Ryan, because he's the guy tonight, feel free, drop them in the comments, and we'll bring them over to Ryan. Or if you have your own little bits of Oz information that you want to drop. Tori, this is for you.
Yeah,
feel free to just drop it in, and we will, of course, just like this. Ray Bolger never saw his extended footage sequence, so
that's sad.
Yeah.
And what Tori's referring to, for those of you who may not know, the Wizard of Oz dance sequence in If I Only Had a Brain was removed. David. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's available now as special features, but I guess Ray himself never got to see it.
Oh.
But he got to perform it.
Yeah. That he did. We saw that.
So after the great Australian experiment, we of course moved on to The Wiz, which is another thing. I've not seen this in its entirety. And it's another one that I have to sit down and watch. But of course, you got Michael Jackson as the Scarecrow. This is wild to me. This thing. But I really have. Like I said, it's one that I haven't seen all the way through. And of course, it was a stage play first, right?
Or it was Broadway. It was a Tony Award-winning Best Musical on Broadway,
right,
in 1974, 1975, and it was exquisite. The stage show is exquisite, and if you want to see the show as it's meant to be, you should track down a copy of The Wiz Live that came out on NBC a few years ago, because it's much truer to the stage version of The Wiz. What's so great about The Wiz is how beautifully it's adapted to the Black culture, the Black African American culture, and then also the songs, like MGM's version, this version of the book has amazing songs. Every song is as good as the last and better than the next, so it's like it's magical that way. But the film version was not a great hit, and I love it. I think it's really well done. It's hard to watch, and if you try to watch it at home, like you find a way to stream it, it's not great on TV. And I got a 75-inch 4K TV, and even on that, it's not as great as when you see it in the theater. If you have the chance to see the 1978 Diana Ross, that's Michael Jackson, that was Nipsey Russell and Ted Ross as the Tin Man and the Lion. They did the roles on Broadway, as did Mabel King do Evelyn on Broadway. So some of the Broadway stars came into the film version, which is fantastic. I think Stephanie Mills, who originated the role of Dorothy on Broadway, was going to be Dorothy in the film version of The Wiz, but Diana Ross basically went to Quincy Jones and it was like, the part is mine or else I'm going to kill myself, and she got the part. And I think Stephanie and Michael were dating at the time, and it was all this excitement. Anyway, the film is made for a big screen because much of the film is shown in a way with huge, enduring, wide shots that are not edited and cut, no bringing into close-ups. When you're seeing Dorothy and Scarecrow and Toto ease on down the road for the first time, and you all know Ease on Down the Road, some of the music in this show has become iconic. It's just one huge wide shot, and they look like little ants on the screen. So watching it on TV, or if you're watching it on your tablet, worse, it's a hard to watch thing. But on a big screen, it really works. Those big, huge wide shots play very magically, and you see their set design and what they're going for with the costumes, and it's much more appealing. The biggest problem with the film version is Diana Ross casting. She's way too old for Dorothy. And she interpreted Dorothy in a way that I've never really seen her interpreted before or since, which is very cowardly, very scared, very crying a lot, very hurt and sad and broken. But maybe as an adult Dorothy who hadn't yet grown up, she would be. But it's slowed down horribly. So when you see The Wiz live, or if you go see The Wiz in a stage production, if you have the opportunity to, or look at any of the clips online from the original Broadway show, Dorothy is upbeat, she's spunky, she is who she's supposed to be, as she's written in the book and as she's in other adaptations we see, and it works so much better for The Wiz.
And Andre DeShields was the wizard in the stage play. He's been a guest at Ostravaganza a number of times. I remember, I think it was my first year there, he was there. And he actually went and sang one of his songs on stage, which was like
still that fits into his original Wiz costume.
That's right. Yeah, he had the suit and the whole thing. It was fantastic. It was unbelievable.
And he just recently won a Tony Award as Best Actor for Hadestown.
Yeah, he's still at it. He's still at it. Yeah. Oh yeah, Andre was amazing. It was one. When I go to cons, I generally don't like do panels. I generally don't like when the con's over, I go home. But in this situation, it was like, hey, we're having these after hours, events for Oz stuff, and I was like, okay, I'll go hang out with y'all. And but what you guys all did was fantastic. I mean, obviously Andre was singing, but there's interviews with the people that are there. The event that is done, and I've been to Ostravaganza. I went to Chesterton one time, like the last year that they did Chesterton, right. and then it was stopped for a period of time, and then it's coming back this year.
Yeah. And you're going to be there this year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excited to have you.
That'll be fun. So yeah, there are Oz events kind of around the country. Have you ever gone down to the old amusement park? Down in what is it, South Carolina, North
Carolina does Land of Oz, and that's on my bucket list. It's a place that every year people send me the viral article like, hey, have you heard about this abandoned? It's no longer abandoned. I have a good friend Sean Barrett, who's the artistic director there, and has renovated, and also my friend Walter Kruger is involved, and they do really great work in bringing this back to life. And they do events. We call them at Oz. There's brunch with Dorothy, things like that. But it's an actual immersive experience. Have you been, Tom?
I have not. I'm the same way. Everybody every year is like, hey, have you seen this thing? And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I can't go.
But that's an actual walkthrough outdoor experience. You walk through an actual Dorothy's house that's crashed in Oz, and you enter onto the Yellow Brick Road, and you go down. You can actually walk through this forest in this beautiful North Carolina theme park and follow the Yellow Brick Road, meet the characters, see them do performances, get to the Emerald City, have that experience, see more performance, interact. They do their own original merchandising and a gift shop. It's amazing, and I'm dying to go. I've been invited and had scheduling conflicts. There it is. I think that's an old version of what it looked like.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most popular, or maybe even the current most popular event that happens in America.
Well, and it's only like a week or two long, and then it's done. That's the part that always drives me crazy, because it's always at a time where it's like, I can't go right now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's definitely, it is on the bucket list for sure. 100%. That is a bucket list. Yeah. Tom says he's seen pictures of this online. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I guess it's probably a good thing that they make it like this short period of time, because then it makes sort of this mystique about what's going on, versus it's just, hey, we're just open, come on in.
Yeah. There's also, have you been to Oztoberfest in Wamego, Kansas?
No, I've been through Wamego, but I have not been there for the show. No.
You go to the Oz Museum?
Oh my gosh, I went to a museum. I don't think it's that museum. Well, I went to a smaller one.
Was it a Wizard of Oz museum?
It was a Wizard of Oz museum. Yes. It was a couple of things. It was so there's a girl who's like taking you through this house. It's not the house, it's not the props. It's just sort of this, hey, this is what it would have looked like in Dorothy's time based on the Wizard of Oz. She kind of wanders you through. Then they open up these doors and you're kind of walking through a guided tour, kind of like you're at Disneyland, right? Hey, now we're in Oz and look at all the, the things and the trees and all of that. And then when you get to the end, there is sort of a museum bit there where they have, pictures and stuff. They say that they have, there's a model of the house there that spins around in the thing, which they say is like the house. And I'm like, that's not the house. There's no way you guys have this house.
Yeah, right.
but, whatever. I mean, it's there and it looks great.
I think you were in Dorothy's house, which is in southern Kansas.
That's probably it. Yes, that's probably it.
Because the Oz Museum is in Wamego, Kansas, and it's on a street that also has Oz Winery and Toto's Tacos and a Yellow Brick Road. It's a fully immersive, gorgeous museum where you actually enter. You walk through, you enter the museum, and it's Dorothy's house outside, and then you open the door into Oz, and you're self-guided through the Yellow Brick Road, and you see all the characters and all the things, all this great collection. It's really, I think, like an incredible, as far as I've seen, one of the greatest museums.
Excellent. Yeah. I definitely want to get down there and
they do a great weekend also. Yeah.
Right. And when do they normally do their thing?
Well, it's Oztoberfest, so it's usually like
October,
the very beginning of October. But I should introduce you to the team that works on that. They'd love to have you, I'm sure.
Sure. Yeah. No, that'd be great. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Hey, Mr. Gregory, what's going on? Welcome, sir.
Oh.
So let's see, where were we? So we did the Wiz, and then of course what we were talking about earlier in the green room, that greenhouse somehow is the Return to Oz. Which for me, this was a really weird movie. This was I never saw this in the theaters. I remember seeing like the trailers and stuff for it. And it didn't make sense to me because all the designs were different. I didn't understand what was happening. That's not the Scarecrow that I know. That's not the Tin Man that I know. It's not the Lion. Like, what is this? I don't understand. And so I literally just was like, I'm going to pass. And I didn't see this movie until I was like in my 20s at some point. And it was just like on TV. And I'm like, okay, I'll finally watch this thing. I mean, I remember they made trading cards of it. And I used to see all these friends had trading cards. And I'm like, yo, man, I don't understand what this is. This is not the Wizard of Oz. What is going on? How is this the Return to Oz? It's nothing makes sense. And you had the Wheelers, which at the time I had no idea what the Wheelers were. It was so strange. It was so strange. What do you remember this coming out? What was your reaction with Wizard of Oz being your favorite movie? What was the Ryan J reaction to this strange little thing?
Because The Wizard of Oz was my favorite movie, and by the time in 1985 when Return to Oz came out, I then read several of L. Frank Baum's Oz books. He's got 14, and this Return to Oz is actually based on books 2 and 3, The Marvelous Land of Oz and Ozma of Oz. And they pretty well mesh together, those two different adventures. And so having read those books going into this, loving those books going into this film is quite accurately depicting what happens in those two books, with the exception of an egregiously ridiculous moment in Kansas early on. And you know what I'm talking about?
Sure. Yes.
Dorothy electroshock therapy treatment. That's not in Bond's books. I don't know how Disney, of all companies, said, let's give Dorothy Gale electroshock therapy at a mental institution. But so aside from that whole moment, which to this day you can tell still bothers me, but the rest of the film and seeing those characters, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Lion, that don't look MGM but look kind of book-like to me.
Sure,
I saw familiarity there, and I loved it. I also in 1985 was 11 years old, the age that then Fairuza Balk, the girl who played Dorothy in that film, was. So seeing a Dorothy that was my exact age at the exact time on opening day in the theater, I was all excited. Like, had my whole family go with me. It was a BFG, you know, and we show up there, and I loved it. I probably saw it 4 or 5 times in the theater, and then, you know, couldn't wait to get it on VHS and find whatever collectibles that I could, and started decorating my room with Return to Oz, and I've loved it ever since. And so that to me is one of my other favorite movies.
Yeah, and it is interesting that it you know, like you said, it follows those two books. It does leave out things like Tip.
Yes.
You know, there are some dramatic differences. Also, the combination of Mombi and Langwidere being sort of squashed together so that you get this one character. I did like the stop motion stuff for the Gnome King in the rocks. That was a really good effect. What's funny is I didn't even realize. I actually just watched it today. I literally watched it today because I was like, you know, I haven't seen this in a long time, and we're going to talk about it, so I want to watch it today. And I watched it, and as I watched it, I realized that I was doing things in my book that were being done in this movie, and I've only seen this movie like 2 times in my life. But like particularly all the like the smiling gnomes in the rocks, like moving around through the rocks, like I put that into my book. But I did that not because they did it. I just did it because in my mind that makes sense. If they're these rock dudes, they can, you know, float around in the rocks. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh man, I'm not nearly as cool as I thought I was, because this is already happening.
Cool. You're so cool. You're so very cool. But one of the things that that Return to Oz doesn't really get enough credit for is that it did pay homage, for all that it was not a musical, it was not brightly colored, it had a lot more of a realistic feel to it. It did pay homage to MGM's and Judy Garland's Oz in the sense that they took some of the actors, like this guy here, the Gnome King. He was doctor in the Kansas scenes, Nicole Williamson. You also had like the Princess Mombi, the witch in this film, was the Nurse Wilson in Kansas. You had also a strange, mysterious girl in Kansas that we later find out is the Queen of Oz, Ozma, our friend Emma Ridley. You know, so they did do some of that. And there was some foreshadowing.
Yeah, I did find that kind of interesting. That Disney would kind of make their own thing, like we said, this kind of weird, dark sort of start and everything, but then very actively come back and say, hey, we want to touch on these elements that people know from the original Oz, even though their story really is like so removed from the musical.
Yes.
Yeah. I definitely I saw a lot of it as I was watching it today, because I have completely new eyes after having gone through all of the Oz stuff that I've done over the last decade. So it's a completely new set of eyeballs watching the movie. And you're right, the designs are very much to the book style, which I noticed again. Every time I look at the lion, he looks like the monster from Neverending Story.
Yes.
Yes.
But this was that time, and Jim Henson worked on this, on those characters.
Yeah, and it's all practical effects. The TikTok guy over on the right, I mean, that's a pretty agile model. He's hopping around, going up steps, doing all kinds of things. It was a pretty impressive setup for all these effects. The Wheelers were pretty cool, zooming around on their wheel feet. Like I said, today was a very different viewing for me. And I found things that I liked that I maybe didn't like the first time. I wasn't really a big fan of them like trying to turn him into a human dude. I was like, I just like him as that rock guy because that's super, super cool looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is. I think for those that haven't seen it for whatever reason you may haven't seen it, it's definitely worth a watch for sure. Wasn't the etc. machine supposed to follow TikTok? Yeah. The electrical machine was TikTok in the real world, whatever we want to call that.
Tongue and nose, a mouth, all that. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. It definitely is cool. It's definitely weird. But I think if you go in understanding that it's not Judy Garland, you'll be fine. Just accept it as its own thing, and you'll be in great shape.
Or if you read the books first, it's really fun to see how they mixed them together.
Yeah, and there was no Ginger in this, was there?
No.
Or did I miss her? Yeah, she was not. There was no Ginger, so they combined Mombi and Langwidere into one, and then they threw Ginger away. So it's like,
right.
Yeah, what's going on with that, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Definitely, I think you should watch it. So the next thing that was on this list, and I guess this was a TV movie that was then reset into an actual, I don't know, however long this was with Dorothy and the Witches of Oz. This actually has Christopher Lloyd in it. And I'm looking, is that Sean Astin on the credits too? And Lance Henriksen? Like, what a cast is this?
Sarah, yeah.
So what can you tell me about this? Because the description says it was a TV show that was then adapted.
It was made as a movie first.
Okay.
It was like The Witches of Oz, and then they decided to do it as a TV version so that they could get it on TV and work with different distributing companies and stuff. But there's also different length versions of it that you can find. And this is really good. This is actually written and directed by a guy who's from my hometown here in Milwaukee, and he came into the premiere, and I got to attend and then do a Q&A with him live in the theater afterward. And a really great team of people. And his background was basically doing like some of those B movies that you'd see on like Sci-Fi Channel. But he was an Oz fan, and so he wanted to do his own take, and he did, and he modernized it. And this one takes place basically in New York City, where Dorothy and her friend, who kind of turns out to be the Scarecrow in this version, he's not in the picture here, but you see the witch there, you see the wizard, you see Miss Sarah, who's actually she's like Langwidere, she can change her heads, and so there's a lot of different Oz elements. You can tell if you're a fan of the books like I am, and you know some of the different Oz stories. It's fun to watch this sort of updated contemporary. It's definitely like a TV movie in terms of the what the budget was. So that made for TV. You're not going to see Marvel level effects here, but they're good, and it's as good as you've seen like Once Upon a Time on ABC. So it's funky and it's different, and it's worth a watch.
Yeah, there's way more on this list than I ever even knew existed. In fact, we were talking about I skipped over this one. I don't have any images. I can't find any images, but we were talking about Fury Road. What if we had a Fury Road Oz? There is a movie called Apocalypse Oz. It was a short film based on The Heart of Darkness from Joseph Conrad and Oz, sort of combined. It says the script is a hybrid of the two classics, Apocalypse Now and The Wizard of Oz, and uses only dialogue from those films.
What? This is the short film nobody wanted.
Except it's the one we just asked for, right? Like we want the Fury Road Oz.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you seen this? Have you ever seen it? I can't even find pictures for it.
I've not. No, I couldn't find anything either. So no, I haven't. But I don't know that I really want to. I mean, it'd be interesting to see maybe how they played that off. But there's a lot of really cool shorts out there. Did you hear about like the Woodsman or the Heartless? The story in Woodman. That's one of my favorite shorts that's out there. It's beautifully scored, beautifully shot for a short film with, you can imagine, a very small budget. They tell the backstory of the Tin Man and how he came to be, how he was once a man of flesh, a little bit. We see a version of it in Wicked. We see other versions of it other places. But this short film, Heartless, is one of my favorite short Oz films. I'm no total.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where these things would appear. For people who are making shorts, are these just ending up at like movie festivals, or what? How do these things normally get distributed?
Right. I mean, I think a lot of directors you'll see, because when you look at first-time directors that break out now, and you'll see a new movie and it's pretty good, and you look at the director and it's his feature debut, but you'll see that below that he's got a lot of shorts. So I think wannabe directors, as they're trying to work up on their craft and get more experience, and they do, if they can do a short film, if it can go through the festival circuit, whether or not it makes it as far as getting an Oscar nomination, I mean, because that's a whole game changer in of itself. But that's a calling card for you to say, hey, check out my reel, look at my work, and that they might get them an opportunity to do a feature-length film.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Excellent. Let's see here. So where are we? We're with the witches. And then we roll into the movie that we talked a little bit about before, which was the Oz Great and Powerful, really kind of the biggest budget movie since the Disney one back in the 80s. James Franco, Mila Kunis. I mean, this had quite a cast and quite a budget. I don't recall it. Were you doing reviews back in 2013? Were you?
Yeah. I got to work with this cast, so I got to go to the premiere and I interviewed this cast and talk to them. And this was one of the first times that I started then traveling with those interviews and doing presentations. But I really enjoyed it. I mean, James Franco is a big Oz fan, grew up himself reading the books, remembered loving Jack Pumpkinhead. Mila Kunis, the first book that she ever read in English was The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, there's James. And James is the nicest guy. He was really cool and very excited to talk about Oz, and you could tell that he really appreciated the material, Mm-hmm. Mila was someone who she really wanted to honor playing the Wicked Witch of the West and putting her own spin on it, and she hoped that she would be able to share the little characters, and she knew that she'd do a good job if kids would be scared. And so she really was intentional with making her scary, but also you can tell that they were aware they had one of the hottest young actresses in Hollywood doing this in the picture there. Because this was made by Disney and not Warner Brothers, who now owns the original film, they had to very consciously make this witch a different shade of green, so she wasn't too close to the color green shade that Margaret Hamilton was in The Wizard of Oz. And then you also have Zach Braff, who was the voice of Finley the monkey there, and Joey King, who is now a huge star. She was the voice of the little China girl on the back of the little flying monkey there. But Zach Braff, when I interviewed him, I remember he was so excited to meet me as someone a part of the Oz community and wanting to know what I thought and that I liked it. And I really think I love, that we saw China Country and we saw Glinda's Castle and the Emerald City so fully depicted, like an actual city that seemed to be made out of actual emerald gems, and that treasure room. And so, we can look at the story and there's issues with the love triangle between the wizard and the witches and the rest of it. And, kind of an easy way to make that movie, but, and less Ozzy for sure. But it also was just so visually delightful. And they also, again, with avoiding, touching upon things that would infringe on Warner Brothers rights and MGM, not showing a horse of a different color, but have a color changing horse. Just a kiss here and there of things that would, starting it out in black and white, going to color. They also started out in, the standard size that The Wizard of Oz was then, and then going to widescreen when it went to color, which I thought was fantastic. Michelle Williams was a character. Zach Braff was a character who appeared in Kansas as one thing to the Wizard and then became something else. But unlike MGM and WB, this version, Oz the Great and Powerful, does not end with Franco going back to Kansas. He stays in Oz. It's a real place. It's not a dream, So that kind of corrects that whole mistake, let's say.
Yeah, sure. Right. Yeah, and now going back to Return to Oz, they kind of did the same thing. They were kind of like, no, it's real. Like the chicken stayed behind, Bellina stayed behind,
right?
And then of course Ozma comes through the mirror at the end, and she's like, "Don't tell anybody."
Yeah.
So they kind of did that too, and I didn't remember that. I was like thinking at the end, I'm like, oh wait a minute, she's waking up on the riverbank. We're going through this whole thing again, but they were like, no, this is legit. It's a real thing. Yeah. Yeah, I like Great and Powerful. I liked how it went deep into the everything, all of the different lands, stuff that we hadn't really seen before in a lot of these other adaptions. So it was cool. Trish actually just reminded me of something that I it's not on my list, and they did a Muppets Wizard of Oz, which I had forgotten about. Here's actually a picture. I had forgotten about this.
Yes.
And it's not on my list of things. Was this a TV movie, I'm wondering, as opposed to a movie?
This I saw it in a movie theater at first, but I think it was in the Scholastic Theater in New York as a special premiere. But yeah, it did debut on television.
Okay.
And what's great about this, I mean, it's very charming, it's very cute. It's not the best of the Muppets, but it's great to see the Muppets in these characters and in the Land of Oz. Ashanti, who we see here as Dorothy, actually got to play Dorothy in a revival of The Wiz in the early 2000s that I got to see at City Center's Encores, and it was magnificent. And then in this version, The Muppets Wizard of Oz also saw David Alan Grier play Uncle Henry and Queen Latifah as Aunt Em, who eventually went on to play The Wiz and the Cowardly Lion in NBC's The Wiz Live. So there was a lot of deep Oz connection here and a lot of love for Oz across different mediums.
Yeah, Muppets have been everywhere, man. I had completely forgotten about that. But being it is TV, I was focusing more on the movies, so that's probably why. So there you go, Trish. There's your Muppets. Was there a Veggie Tales Wizard?
There was the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Yes.
Oh my gosh!
There's so many. There's Minnie and the Wizard of Diz, Minnie Mouse. There's one. I mean, there's so many different adaptations, and then there's actually. I mean, if we want to talk about animated series, there's an amazing. Tom, have you seen Lost in Oz on Amazon?
No.
You should. David, Jim, you guys should. It's really good.
Okay.
It's not just for little kids. They're short episodes, so you can you can binge it really easy. It's one season. There's season 1, part 1, and part 2. I talked to the creators and executive producers recently with Tori, actually, and they're going to be doing some more. Netflix, or no, it was Amazon Prime rather, ended their children's animation department, so they're no longer with Amazon Prime. But they won the Emmy for Best Animated Children's Daytime Program. I mean, it's incredible. But they use a lot. They draw a lot from the books, and like what you've done with The Legend of Oz, it's a fully realized, fully immersive type of environment that they built to create this series. It's super fun to watch, and you'll get a kick out of picking out different characters and little Easter eggs here and there, things that you would know.
So we got distracted with the Muppets. We have a horse of another color. I have a story with that because when I wrote my Oz, I put the horse of another color in the book because I was like, yeah, that's fine, right? And then I realized later that no, that's MGM's thing, man. That's and so what's funny is the Witch of the West, my Witch of the West, rides the horse of another color. So in the book, every time the horse is in a panel, it's a different color. So we change it every single time you see it in a different panel.
Do you ever call it the horse of a different color?
No, it's never given a name. It's never given a name. It's just there.
That's
yeah, and I figured it's so tiny, it's not a big deal. But when I did realize it, we did modify the horse, and this is now the horse right here.
Wow.
And so instead of it turning colors, we gave it the kind of the color rainbow hoof stuff going on.
Cool.
So we kind of modified it into this. So this was the horse of another color that we were like, okay, MGM, you can keep it. We'll do our own horse thing. And so that's how we made our little left turn.
People in Bubbles, like they were in Baum's book, The Road to Oz, and like they are in the film Oz the Great and Powerful. So traveling by Bubble is quite common, and I'd like to do it.
You're right. Seems like it's pretty good. It seems like it's pretty
David's
good.
Coming with me. David's up for a bubble ride. Good.
Sounds fun.
So the last movie that's on my list that I mean it's on the list of movies, so I'm assuming this was released in, maybe it was a festival thing, and this was something that Mark Baum had told me about that I still have yet to see, and I really want to see it. It's called Ozland, and the gist of it was that I heard is basically this is sort of a post-apocalyptic type of thing where they find the Wizard of Oz and they think it's some sort of a real book. Is that what is that kind of the basic of this?
This is hardcore sci-fi. I love this movie. I remember reviewing it before it came out. Michael Williams is the director. He's very talented. And with I don't think with a lot of resources, he's the kind of guy who can take little resources and make it look much bigger than it is. He did that with this film. This film is very impressive for the small that they had to work with. But yes, the premise of Ozland is basically a post-apocalyptic America where they stumble and they don't know, there's no survivors, but these two men are surviving and they're kind of traveling the earth together, and they stumble upon a copy of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. But there are no other books. There is no other literature or access to information. And so they look at that book and without any, and in search of answers, go to that book and read it as though it's like the Bible today. Take it seriously and take the word of Baum as, you know, almost like the word of God. They're not bowing down and praying to it, but they're taking it seriously and looking for these places and these things and considering it. And so, and then without giving anything away, some magic does occur.
Okay.
And so it's really, really interesting and fantastic. I love sci-fi. I'm a big sci-fi geek. I love thrillers. I love horror. I'm totally into all of that, in addition to fantasy and musicals and all those, you know. But so Ozland, it's like if you like a good indie and you like Oz and you want to something like a hard sci-fi, it's a good film.
Yeah, Mark really recommended it. They have some stuff from it in the museum. I was like, yeah, I just always keep forgetting to go find it because a lot of times these little films, it's like they're very hard to find.
Yeah.
You got to either find it streaming somewhere or make a miracle eBay find to get the DVD or something.
Get the DVD. I'm quoted on the back.
Oh, well, look at that! Holy
Whoa.
cow! See, look at this guy. I told you he was for real, guys. I told you. So that was
shameless promotion whenever I can. Come on.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Yeah, and
clearly my mom's not watching anymore, so I got to say this stuff for myself.
Or she's just totally engrossed and she's not even worried about asking questions. You know.
Yeah, she's over it.
She's over it. Yeah. So we do have a couple of, and we want to talk about what you're doing with your reviews and your Oz show, because you do an Oz show as well. We had a couple of things here that everybody will know that were TV movies. Of course, we did the Tin Man miniseries from Sci-Fi, which was kind of cool. More or less a direct-ish sequel. I mean, kind of. It's like basically Oz so many years since Dorothy left, especially since we have, of course, the Gray. We won't give spoilers to people that haven't seen it, but the Gray is in there, which I thought was a really cool thing, and I was really, really hoping for like a really special, like CG moment there, but whatever. We got what we got. But it got a lot of flack because it was kind of an adult-ish type of Oz, because like the Emerald City, there was like, brothels and stuff.
Yeah.
What did you think of that, Jim? You're okay?
When this came out, I remember watching this when this came out, man. I was so excited because it was where I was living at. It was airing on Sci-Fi. It was like a whole week because it was like it was broken down in a couple parts. So I was that's when we got TiVo. We had TiVo, so I was like, oh hell yeah, we're gonna get TiVo set up, and yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I didn't even know this thing existed, and somebody had to tell me that it was. Hey, there's this, because I had heard of it like Tin Man, but I'm like, I didn't understand what it was. They were like, oh yeah, it's like an Oz sequel-ish thing, and so I saw it like a few years after it had come out.
Yeah, it's kind of like I compare it to like what Tim Burton did with Alice in Wonderland, where it's the story of Alice in Wonderland. It's a sequel and like the first film all in one. It's kind of like an interquel. Like Alice doesn't remember having been to Oz before, so she kind of has to go through it all again. But yet it's a sequel, and they all remember her. So this is kind of the case with Sci-Fi's Tin Man, and I got to interview Alan Cumming, who played the Scarecrow in this. And he was fantastic. I can show you. Wait, you want to see?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh.
Yeah, he was really my wall of fame. I've got my photos over here for all the other people that so when I did a radio show in New York, Alan Cumming stopped by and he was promoting some of the work that he was doing on Broadway and a book that he had just written. And I was like, you were the Scarecrow in Tin Man on Sci-Fi. Let's just talk about that. And he was actually very happy to. So he was terrific and enjoyed it, and is an authentic Oz fan himself, so was thrilled to be a part of it. Zooey Deschanel as Dorothy is very vocal about being a huge Judy Garland fan. So she was then, I think, frustrated being in a version where she wasn't necessarily singing. She has a great singing voice as well. But this is really for true Sci-Fi fans as well. This is the kind of thing where I've got some girlfriends who are like, I hate science fiction, and they wouldn't be into it. You're right. It is more of an adult. It is more of a harder look almost like a precursor to what we see later with the Emerald City TV series, you know. But I think it was smart to be a miniseries because it's easy to rewatch. This is 3 parts, and I think it was very well done.
You know, it's funny with Alan Cummings. And this guy he's great, and he's been in so many things. Every time I see his face, I'm like, oh, that guy was in Burlesque. Like that's the immediate connection for me. Is like, oh, he's in Burlesque. I know that guy.
Circle of Friends. I mean, so many things. He's doing
so many things exactly. Yeah. But I see him, and it's like that's that guy from Burlesque. All right. So yeah, it's weird. Yeah. So Tin Man, and then of course, like we just talked about, the Emerald City. Which was kind of short-lived. I mean, what did they do? About 7 episodes, and they didn't get to do anything more?
No, there were 10. There were
10. Okay.
Yeah, they did 10. And
I remember you were touring around with these guys for a while too, a little bit.
Yeah,
or at least at some of the premieres and so on.
Right. So here's I was with Vincent D'Onofrio, the Wizard. Audrey Arjona, who was Dorothy, and so I got to meet with them to promote this show. And what's really magnificent about Emerald City, aside, because I can talk and rave about their performances for a while, but Emerald City was ahead of its time and really probably didn't belong on NBC. And NBC did a pretty good job at promoting it, but it was really the kind of show that we're used to now seeing in on Netflix, on HBO. It's like Game of Thrones. They actually filmed all over the world. They didn't go and do what, like, Once Upon a Time for ABC did, film in Canada and create some sound stages. They found where Oz would be on Earth, and they went there and they took their casts there to different countries all across the globe and found places that looked like what Oz would be. And so visually it was stunning and expensive and impossible almost, Then you had Vincent D'Onofrio, who played and gave so many more layers to the character of the Wizard than we'd ever seen in any other depiction of that character. Redefined what the man behind the curtain meant spiritually and physically, and with his insecurities. Seeing the first ever Latinx actress play the role of Dorothy, groundbreaking for diversity and for the Land of Oz too, and inclusivity. And then it also was just like, if we were to see Oz, Oz to us is colorful and it's clean. It's the good witch and the bad witch, and there's this magic, but it's pretty, But Emerald City did a version of Oz that looked more like Lord of the Rings or looked more like Game of Thrones, and it was, people were not as clean. And I mean, when I say clean, like fantasy is clean or dirty. There's the fantasy we see like The Wizard of Oz with Judy Garland, and then there's the fantasy we see like Lord of the Rings where everybody needs the shampoo.
Right.
That's what I mean by dirty. But what I mean it literally looks like there's dirt on the characters. In Lord of the Rings, they all need a shower. In The Wizard of Oz, they could probably skip a week. Right? Okay. So Emerald City was a show where they needed more showers for these characters. It wasn't a clean fantasy. So but a great show, and really deserved a second season because Fiona Shaw, Aunt Petunia from Harry Potter, played Mombi in an episode. I think it was episode 2 or 3, and it was such a moment for that series. I want to thank you so much for sharing your experiences and knowledge. You're an amazing person. Why did I read that out loud?
because it's for you. It's for you.
Thank you. What a sweet thing. That makes me feel so good. Thank you.
So do you think that Emerald City missed maybe because it was like a Game of Thrones thing? Or what is your interpretation of what missed?
2 reasons. Number one, it was because it actually got quite a decent viewership. So it wasn't a ratings problem. Number one was it was very expensive.
Sure.
They brought on a huge film director that did all 10 episodes, which we're seeing people do on HBO. We're seeing people do that on Netflix. They're getting those kinds of deals. Networks weren't really making deals like that for people, especially not NBC.
Right.
So NBC marketed it well and it performed well. But when it was time to renew for season 2 and people wanted to, it didn't happen because it was way too expensive to get another director in to do a season 2, to travel the world again. It was financially not possible.
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting.
Sad.
Yeah. And sometimes, just from a general sense, sometimes things need a second season to really kind of land as well.
Yeah,
even if it had good viewership, if it came back again, it might have even been able to expand what it was doing.
Yeah, and season 1 ended with like basically the rebirth of the Gnome King as this like devil character, and he was phenomenal looking and really cool. I was so excited to see where that was going to go, and then here we are.
Yeah. And now there has been talk of a, whatever they want to call it, a retcon, a reboot, a do-over, a new, whatever it is they're going to be, with the one of the writers. Was she a writer or a director on Watchmen?
Director Nicole Castle.
Yeah, on Watchmen, the TV show Watchmen. There is. I mean, I guess it's happening. Whatever happening means in Hollywood until it actually happens. That she is going to take over an Oz of some sort.
The remake. Well, it's the first time that the book has been adapted to a big film by a big studio since 1939. So that's a big deal. It can be a remake, but it could also be a reimagining. I mean, to be a remake, does that mean it needs to actually like take the songs and do? No, it can just be a new adaptation of the book. Maybe it'll be closer to the book. Maybe it's going to include a lot of things because it's Warner Brothers, a subsidiary of New Line, through Warner Brothers. They can draw into the trademarks. They can use the ruby slippers, the horse color, Miss Gulch if they want to. All those things are fair game, as is everything in the original book. So it can be anything. And I think it's really exciting that Nicole Castle is doing it. If you've seen Watchmen, which if you haven't, what's the matter with you? I think one of the best TV seasons I've ever seen in history of television, right? It's one of the best single seasons. So fantastic. And what she did with it was so incredible. So, I mean, like, there isn't anything with someone that's at her level of directing experience couldn't do. Like, if she wants to do this, do it.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested, based on what the Watchmen was, and I mean, everything right now is assumptions and just terminology. Like, what does a reimagining mean? What does a retcon mean? What does a reboot mean? What does this mean? We don't know yet. But she is attached to it. It is apparently moving forward. So at some point in the next few years, we might have, I don't know, like an Oz, mini series of some sort if she's going to adapt the whole book.
I think that's the great hope, is that if a film now, unlike in 1939 when a film was successful, they didn't automatically look into doing a sequel. But now we do. We see that there's payoff there, and the audiences are comfortable with that, and studios are even more comfortable with it because they think there's more, more confidence in investing that dollar to make those movies. So, if we could see them go to Baum's successive books and draw from it and continue the series as a franchise, I mean, could you imagine 14 Oz movies?
Yeah, it'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. I mean, it'd be crazy.
The
Absolutely
Oz
crazy.
Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And then one extra movie, the 15, where it's like the Oz Avengers, and it's just all of them together,
Oz
fighting the Gnome King, and one final big battle. I mean, the Gnome King, he's the original Infinity guy, right? He's got all the stones. So,
Well, it's Warner Brothers, so it would be Dorothy joins the Justice League.
There you go. That's the Justice League. Yes. That's true. As just no Snyder. Just leave Snyder at it. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. So we've kind of hit the end of things. We haven't really talked a lot of the TV stuff. There's tons of TV.
Yeah,
stuff
I mean, there's a really good TV show that we didn't discuss.
Yeah.
And speaking of Oz that needs shower, that one had plenty of showers in that one.
I forgot.
What are you talking about?
I was going to show you guys this. I forgot all about it. There was the Russian adaptation that we're going to this is the only picture I can find. It is called The Wizard of the Emerald City. And this is the only image I can find. This is like the movie poster for it. But it's apparently a Russian adaptation. It was done in 1994.
I could have drawn a better poster.
I couldn't.
On this list of foreign language stuff, there's a 71 Turkish film that's basically just known as the Turkish Wizard of Oz, and then there's this Russian one, which I had never heard of either. Have you ever heard of these, Ryan?
I'm not familiar with these.
Yeah, that's pretty outside the box.
Tim, is that what you were talking about with the shower?
No, I was talking about the HBO series Oz.
Oh, that Oz. Yeah.
Yeah.
That Oz.
They call it the Emerald City, and
Yeah, that's right.
That's my favorite.
There was no magic there, though.
No, there's not. There were a lot of guys saying there's no place like home, or yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So let's talk about you a little bit here, Ryan. Talk about your review portion of the things that you do, some of that stuff, but also the do you do it once a month your Oz podcast?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So right. So I'm on, I'm on TV about 4 times a week doing movie reviews for all the new movies that are opening that week. And then twice a month, I do an Oz talk show for the Oz Club. We talked about, going to ozclub.org to join the International Wizard of Oz Club, which is really the best fan base to join. You get the Bomb Bugle and the rest of it. So I launched this talk show that's in the style of The View. So I have 4 co-hosts and I moderate, and we do hot topics and we bring guests on. We had Tom on recently to talk about Legend of Oz: The Wicked West.
Highest rated show he's had so far.
It is. It was so fun. You're so great. You're great, and it was so fun. And so just to feature all different aspects of Oz and talk about Oz hot topics. So in the week that Nicole Castle announced she was going to be doing a remake or a reimagining or a reboot of The Wizard of Oz, that was something for us to discover. Seeing the Wizard of Oz Easter eggs throughout WandaVision, things like that, covering Oz at Christmas, Oz at Halloween, and perennial costumes. The rest of it, we dressed up for that. It was a lot of fun. So it's through the Oz Club's YouTube channel is where people can find that, and it's twice a month, and that's really fun. And also, I met at Ozstravaganza actually a few years ago in Chittenango, Aaron Harburg, who's the great grandson of Yip Harburg, the lyricist of Over the Rainbow and all the songs in The Wizard of Oz, and he's working on a documentary film to honor his great grandfather, who worked with composer Harold Arlen on all of those great classic songs. And he brought me on as a director because prior to being a film critic, I used to produce and direct for TV stations and I did documentary style of television shows for Bravo and Nickelodeon, MTV, VH1, Showtime, and a bunch of them. So now I'm back on that side of the camera as director, and we've interviewed a bunch of celebrities, Oscar winners, Tony winners, Emmy winners, talking about what Over the Rainbow means to them, and we're exploring the creation of that song. It's called Song of the Century, and we're getting our first rough cut together actually this week, and doing some reshoots later this year, and hope to have that finally finished in 2022. So that's all that's everything I've got right now, Tom.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, think about it, guys. Well, this movie's almost 100 years old now. We're at like 80. What was it? 39. So we're goddamn. We're all old.
we're old.
We're
You
old,
guys
man.
are
We're old. Yeah, he's not old. He's still watching Oz Great and Powerful.
Yeah.
We're all over here like,
Hey,
come on. Man.
Oz Great and Powerful, they got the 1971 Oldsmobile in there. So, I mean, they got Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
It's good.
So Tris is asking, what is the top 3 adaptions that are a must watch or read? What do you got? Where would you direct people, Ryan? And I'm assuming she means books, TV. Like, what would be your top media things?
Well, I mean, they're the most popular for a reason. So I would say Wicked. The musical Wicked is one. The classic The Wizard of Oz. If you've already got that under your belt, I'd go to Return to Oz and Oz the Great and Powerful. I think they're really, really there. I mean, as far as movies go,
Sure.
The Wiz, if you want to go to stage 2, I would check out The Wiz live before watching The Wiz movie. Much more enjoyable and much truer to the spirit of what The Wiz is supposed to be. So that The Wiz live is really good. And gosh, I mean, there's so much. DM me if you want more recommendations.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is there's a ton of Oz stuff, but a lot of it is like we kind of talked about. A lot of it's kind of like, it's kind of, here's an Australian Oz, here's a thing over here, here's a thing over here. But the ones that pop to the top really are there, like you said, they're there for a reason. They exist for a reason. People understand them for a reason. This isn't like necessarily like James Bond, where there's 30 movies and we pick our top 3 James Bond movies. So guys, we're gonna let Ryan go. We're gonna give you a minute here if you have any final questions, comments. Throw out your Oz stuff that you want to talk about, like the Muppets. I had completely blanked on the Muppets. So throw out your stuff here. We'll give you a minute to kind of catch up as we're winding up here. When you do your reviews, do your reviews end up online as well? Where do people find what you do outside of the market you're in?
Sure. You can see my TV segments are always posted to my website at ryanjreviews.com. It's random. I'll get calls or texts from people all across the country that are like, I just heard you on the radio. So I've lost track of like which stations I'm on, but I have about 1 or 2 million listeners each week on radio in cities.
Wow.
1 or 2 million.
Yeah.
1 or 2 million.
So do you watch every single movie that comes out, or is it just a select few that you watch for that?
Each week I review between 2 and 4 movies. During award season, I'm screening a lot more. Sometimes I have weeks where I have to watch 40 movies, which is impossible, but you do the best you can when you're getting ready, because I vote for the Critics' Choice Awards and I vote for the Dorian Awards, which are actually going to air tomorrow night on Reverie. So, I choose the ones usually that are most popular. Oh, thanks, Trish. That's my website. I go to I pick out the ones that I know are opening in theaters right now because people are trying to return to theaters, and then also like what's bigger, most expected on Netflix or Amazon, what has star power in it. I try to consider the audience would think I'm pretty mainstream,
Gotcha, okay.
in terms of my taste and also my audience, and so I try to kind of cater to what I think their needs are. But once in a while, if I find a really great film that is maybe outside of the mainstream, but I think important or enjoyable nonetheless, like I'll stick that in there,
What's the most, like what you just said, sort of outside the mainstream? What's the best one you've seen outside the mainstream lately?
Recently, there's one that's playing now called Mafi, which is a non-mainstream war movie about a South African in the late 80s who is drafted to go in and fight on the South African line against the Russian communists.
Oh wow!
And it's not a typical war movie. First of all, the boot camp that they go through is like, it makes our boot camp look like a spa day. My father was in the army here, and like they make you do the push-ups, drop and give me 20. You can't eat when you want to eat. You got to carry heavy stuff. You got to crawl. They're going to yell in your face. They're going to insult you. That looks like, honestly, like a spa day compared to what they're going through. And this is a true story of this Mafi film, where it's literally like crimes against humanity that are committed against these cadets as they're in training in boot camp. It's disgusting, and you watch it's like train wreck watching. You're hurting.
Yeah.
Or the humanity of it, but you can't stop watching because it's terrible, and you kind of got to just watch all the horrors that they endure, and then it switches gears and becomes something totally different that I've never seen depicted in a war movie either. And so I found that really compelling and recommended that.
And where is that playing, or is it
on demand right now? Mafi.
On demand. Okay.
On demand.
Check that out. So out of all the movies that you reviewed, what is the one movie that you're like, this was 2 thumbs down, worst movie ever? Don't go see this movie.
I'm so excited because I have been asked so often, what's like the worst movie I've ever seen? And there are like 3, and I can never ever remember them. However, I have just yesterday reviewed and watched this week and reviewed my new worst movie of all time.
Oh my God.
It is hard. It's in theater. It opened in theaters nationwide yesterday, so it's now playing. It stars Morgan Freeman and Ruby Rose, Batwoman, right?
Yeah. And
it is called Vanquish. It is so bad. If I could murder a film, which would not be a crime, I would murder this movie. I don't think it's against a lot of murder movies. I want to kill this film. It's so bad to watch. It's like a bad student movie made by a very bad student. It does these things like, first of all, I call it a laction movie because it lacks action. It's an action thriller. It's not thrilling. The action is so tired and boring. It's kind of like, imagine you're going into a fight in an action movie and someone's got 2 guns like stuck here in holsters, and there's people behind her. And she's fighting the people this way, and no one's grabbing the guns off her back. Like, come on! You're gonna wait for her to turn around and punch. Okay, so that's number 1. Then also, there's tons of these really unnecessary within scenes with dialogue. Not a transition from one scene to the next where it might be appropriate, but scenes within dialogue. It would be like a scene with Jim and Tom are talking, and you're slowly dissolving between the two, and then dissolving, and then you fade to black, and you fade up from black, and you fade to black, and you fade up from black. I'm like, whoa, like, do you need me to teach you how to make a movie?
Those are weird choices.
But I think I could do better. Any of us could do. It's called Vanquish. Skip it. I'm saving you time and money right now. Worst movie.
No, Jim is 100%. Jim is going to go find the movie now and see
so
it.
Muffy and Vanquish are what I'm watching tonight after this show.
Muffy's good. Muffy's worth watching, but Vanquish. Oh my God, Jim! If you watch Vanquish, you have got to tell me, because if you find anything redeeming in this film, I need to know.
I watched the movie DVD the other day. We're all big horror fans, and so we dive into the horror stuff every now and then. I was at a used place, and they had all kinds of Amityville movies, right? Like there's the horror, and then there's like all these sequels. But there's apparently a guy who's making a new crop of, well, they're not new, they're like 10 years old, but he's making a new crop of these, Amityville, but it's not the house, it's just about the town. And so this one was called Amityville Playhouse, which is basically about like a cursed stage place, a playhouse. And I was like, oh, okay, well that's fine, I'll buy it. So I bought it. I didn't watch it. I kept it. It's been like on my table, right here for months. And finally I put it in the other night, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna finally watch this Amityville movie. And you've seen The Room, right?
Yeah, of
so
course.
This is basically The Room, but it's horror.
No,
it's so bad. Like, you want to talk about murdering a movie? Like, it's so bad.
What?
It's so bad. And so I told Jim, I was like, Jim, I watched this. You have to watch this. I'm just sending it to him.
Okay.
Like, you have to watch this now because I did, and then David has to watch it after he's done, and then we're all going to come talk about this.
David's not going to watch it.
It's oh my God.
Yeah, I'll watch it.
It was so painful. It's so painful.
You guys got to let me know when you do that show. I want to watch and see what you guys
listen,
say.
when David's done, we'll send it to you, and then you can watch it.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it. It's hard. But wait a minute. I mean, like, I want to know, though, since you guys like horror, like, have you seen wait, first of all, I was watching one of your past episodes, and I think it's maybe around when time you're talking about Amity, but also, like, you mentioned something about shark jaws or something, or
Santa Jaws?
Santa Jaws.
Santa Jaws.
Like, wait a minute. Is this a real thing? Santa
A real thing.
Jaws?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yes.
I need to find that. Is that any good?
It's
glorious.
It's not. It's better than Amityville Playhouse. We'll say that. It's better than Amityville Playhouse. It's a ridiculous concept. But I mean, literally, you're going into a movie called Santa Jaws. There's no expectations here. Just
I would have expectations. I would want it better happen during Shark Week. There better be presents.
As long as they're low,
there better be bloody.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's actually I saw it with Shark Week. They had it on like Sci-Fi.
Yeah,
they played it.
I want to Slay delivering presents and Jaws and bloodshed. That's what I want.
You'll be fine.
Okay.
The one you want to avoid, though, and we're talking Amityville.
Yeah.
There's actually one where they tried to put, because the Jaws takes place in Amity, right? So you have Amityville and you have Amity. So they did a movie called Amity Island, which is supposed to take Amityville horror and Jaws and put them together. Don't go near that. Don't go near that. It's basically, hey, I took my phone and we made a movie. There's nothing good here.
That's
just stay away from that one. Stay away from that one.
Quickly, just before we wrap up, please, everybody, tell me each of you the scariest movie you've ever seen.
Oh, The Exorcist.
The Exorcist.
It's at the top. Listen. This is how scary it is. All right, I bought the steel book of this about sometime last year, and it's just been sitting in the collection. I haven't seen the movie for years, and the other night I was like, yeah, let's just put this in. It's like, I don't know, it's like midnight. I always watch a movie before I go to bed, so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put this in. It's like the extended edition. I lasted 20 minutes and I was like, nope, this is off. This is a daytime movie. I'm done. Yeah. The only other one, and this is just kind of a personal, because I have claustrophobia, and I don't know if you've seen this. Ryan Reynolds did a movie called Buried.
Yes. Oh.
Yes.
Oh my God! Did that trigger my claustrophobia to the point I had to stand up and walk around to watch the movie? That was like a personal trauma thing. But yeah, it's The Exorcist and Buried for me.
Jim.
Yeah.
Well, for me, so when I was a kid, we're in my grandfather's motorhome. We're cruising through the channels, and I see a doll, and I'm like, oh, well, I like dolls, like Muppets, puppets, could be something cool. It was Child's Play 3 with Chucky, and Man, boy howdy, that scared the hell out of me, and I didn't watch any of those movies until like after I had joined the Navy. I was in the military. I was like, I can't be scared of this damn doll anymore, because even the image would just terrify the hell out of me. Seeing the red shoes and the knife, and it was just horrible. So I finally watched all those movies. I'm like, okay, they're good movies. They're good horror movies, but that's the only thing to date that scared the hell out of me. That is Chucky. Chucky scared the hell out of me when I was a kid.
That's awesome. It was, as a kid, that was scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about you?
All some of the lives and
Yeah.
my sister as a prank, because she knew I was terrified, she would take her Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy dolls and then put them in my room to like, oh, they're coming to get you. Like literally, like we have like one of those VHS recorders, right? And so she made a VHS tape and she's like, hey, watch this movie. And I put the movie in, and my sister took the camera and she recorded Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy, and it was just her behind the camera saying, "We're coming to get you."
Oh my God!
Oh,
She is evil. She is evil. That's great though. And Raggedy Ann is the original Annabelle.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So David, what's your scariest movie?
Well, first off, Jim, I'm gonna send something to you. I got a life-size Chucky doll. I'm not kidding. I never told you that in real life. But
He's like,
God,
no.
there's two movies. When this first movie came on, I would sit and scream and cry and bawl not to watch it. And it was John Carpenter's The Thing. When that came on, because I didn't understand like the body stuff going on and everything and all. And then the second one was, and I love them both today. The second was Poltergeist.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't. When I was a kid, stuff that freaked me out when I was a kid is the stuff I couldn't wrap my head around.
Yeah.
So like when the guy got like bit and he's like walking down the stairs and the little kid's like, "You got bit?" And he's like, "Yeah, look," and there's like this big huge bite on his side. That freaked me out so bad. Like the guy tearing his face off and the whole
the Steven Spielberg hands.
Yeah, the Steven Spielberg hands with the puppet. And then, of course, the clown doll. Like, I couldn't stand clown doll. I couldn't stand doll movies back in the day. Because my loving sister had over 300 dolls in her bedroom.
Oh.
And they were, like, not the cute ones. They were, like, the porcelain two-eyed. One's going like this, and the other one's going... Stuff. Oh. That's kind of cute, though.
It's Dobby.
Dobby, yeah, that's cute.
It's Dobby.
That's Harry Potter. Is Harry Potter your most scary movie, Ryan?
Yeah, my scariest movie. This guy scares me. No, I love Dobby. But no, my scariest movie is Funny Games.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, you guys. Ooh.
Funny Games?
That was the one that came out in the mid 2000s?
Yes, like 2007, I believe.
Yeah.
Naomi Watts. Yeah, watch it.
Oh yes,
I've seen that movie. Wait, that's your most scary? That really?
Yeah, didn't it scare you?
No, not really.
Like they're gonna come and cut you up.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of people tell me that too.
What scared me, like I would say The Exorcist too, Tom. But like, what scared me about Funny Games was like, oh, it's like real time. There's no creative editing or score that enhances horror films that we know. So it's made without all of the tricks of the trade. It's just real time. This is what's going to happen. Two nice looking guys going to show up at your house and kill you. And it's bad. And like, it's not bad. I mean, it's a good movie, but that's bad.
Right.
The concept.
The reality of it.
Sure. No, I get that. 100%. I get that. It's like there's a lot of the horror stuff that I can't watch just because they call it like torture porn. It's just like, hey, look, there's a finger. We cut it off.
Like,
I'm just like, I don't want to watch that.
The Hostel movie, like Eli Roth.
The Hostel movie.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Is it kind of was it kind of like The Strangers? Like they don't like explain anything; they just come in, kill them, and go on.
No, this is explained, but even the explanation is creepy too. Ew. So yeah, it's disturbing. I need to like disturbing stuff because that's the stuff that sticks with me.
Yeah. Funny Games. I'm looking this thing up. That just doesn't ring any bells at all. I'm gonna have to look at what this is.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know what you think of it.
Huh. Okay. All right. I'm game. Yeah. I'm
excited for The Conjuring 3 coming out this year because I love it too.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
100%.
Yes.
100%. Yeah, this whole crazy show started because back on Halloween, COVID was happening and no one was doing Halloween stuff. And so I was like, you guys just want to like turn the camera on and just like talk about horror movies, because the Friday the 13th like Blu-ray box set had just come out. And so we were just talking about Friday the 13th, you know, and we had the debate like which is the worst, number 5 or Jason Goes to Hell. And then what was crazy is 5 episodes later, we had Adam Marcus on the show who directed Jason Goes to Hell.
So
and we had him on the show for like 2 hours. It was like this mind-blowing, you know, deep dive into the Friday the 13th universe. And you know, we just kept doing it. So it's been fun.
For 5 episodes. For 5 episodes leading up to the Adam Marcus episode, we always kept bashing Jason Goes to Hell, and then we get Adam Marcus on, and then it changed our minds about everything we knew about Jason Goes to Hell, and then it became Friday the 13th Part 5 is the worst.
Is the worst.
I get it. I've had that experience where I reviewed a movie that's really bad, and then suddenly you're face to face with Kate Hudson, and you're like, "I loved your new movie." And then like you previously like reviewed it horribly, and like your audience is like, "You're the biggest hypocrite in the world."
Well, what was great was Adam. Like, I mean, he's had this debate for decades. I mean, people have been like, dude, you made the worst one ever, and he was like, no, let me tell you why this works. And he's very consistent in his answers, and they're very logical, and it was a great talk. And at the end of the movie, at the end of the show, I was like, look, I've changed my mind. Part 5 is the worst. You are not the worst anymore. So yeah, it was really fun. And we love having guests like you that know what the heck they're talking about. So I really appreciate you diving in and giving us the Oz spiel.
This has been so fun for me. I mean, you know, Tom, I'm a huge fan of yours and all you do. So thank you so much for including me tonight. Jim and David, it's great to meet you guys. And this is a lot of fun. It seems we have a lot in common. So anytime you want me to hop on and talk about movies, I'm around.
Beautiful, beautiful. We have an open door for Ryan to come on back. Guys, we'll be back next week. I don't know what we're doing yet. We've run through our 3 planned shows. Now we have to figure out what's next. But we'll be doing something next Saturday. So keep your eyes and ears open.
Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah.
We can't do Mortal Kombat. It opens on Friday.
Yeah, so people can watch it Friday and then come to the show Saturday.
Spoiler alert, we're going to tell you everybody that dies on Mortal Kombat on Saturday.
Yeah, that's how we're going to start the show. Sub-Zero, Scorpion.
Sub-Zero slips on ice and falls on a pike and kills him.
That's it. That's your movie. It's done.
That's it.
Guys, we'll be back Saturday. Thank you, Ryan, for doing this. We appreciate it. Thank you all for being part of the show. We'll see you all next week for episode 18, ? We'll see what it's going to be. Bye-bye.